For more than 100 years, there was this home in Washington, D.C. for vulnerable women and children. And in the middle of the 20th century, it got renamed for a woman named Meriwether. But here's the thing. For decades, her story, the actual person behind that name, was pretty much lost to history. So who was Mrs. Meriwether? Let's dig in and find out. So that's what we're going to do. We're going on a journey, really, into the archives to piece together the incredible life of Mary Merriweather. She's a woman whose legacy was literally carved onto a building, but whose personal story, well, that was almost forgotten. So where do we even begin? Well, we start with the most obvious clue, the building, the institution that would eventually carry her name. This place, the place that would become her life's work, had such a critical mission right from the start, way back in 1863. I mean, it was an absolute lifeline, giving shelter and education to formerly enslaved people who were pouring into the capital. By the 1950s, it was the only private orphanage for African-American children in the entire city. This was the world she was about to step into and completely transform. And then, boom, in the 1940s, the institution gets a new name. Her name. It becomes the Merriweather Home. And that, right there, is our central mystery. Why her? Out of everyone, what did Mary Merriweather do to earn such an incredible honor? To figure that out, we have to go all the way back to the beginning of her life. To really get a grip on her impact, we've got to build her story from the ground up. We're talking family, education, everything that laid the foundation for a life of service. Okay, I want you to just stop and really look at this timeline, because her early life was absolutely exceptional for any woman of that era, let alone an African-American woman. She's born in 1848 to activist parents, gets this top-tier education from the very progressive Oberlin College, and then moves to D.C., becomes a teacher, and marries into the city's rising Black aristocracy. I mean, wow. And this right here is such a crucial point. Mary Merriweather wasn't some outsider. She was a core part of this powerful, organized community. You have to remember, in a segregated America, this network of educated, professional African Americans built their own institutions to support and uplift their community. So her position within this elite, it wasn't just about social status. No, it was a platform. It gave her influence, connections, and resources to make real change happen. And believe me, she was going to use it. And this drive she had, it wasn't some random thing. It was a family tradition. Her parents were activists, and she passed that fire right down to her own daughters. One of them helped found the pioneering Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, the very first for African-American women. Another daughter fought for school desegregation in Virginia and helped start a rural branch of the NAACP. Activism was just in her DNA, and it became her legacy. So we have this educated, well-connected woman with a deep passion for service. Now we get to the moment where her story and the story of the National Home collide in a really dramatic way. The place Mary Merriweather served was always sort of scraping by financially. But in 1892, things got really bad. It faced a true existential threat. Its congressional funding was on the chopping block. For an institution that was constantly fighting to survive, this could have been it. This could have been the end. But it wasn't the end, and we know why. Decades before she would ever lead the organization, Mary Merriweather, who was serving as a board member, she stepped up. The historical record is crystal clear. Her actions were instrumental in saving the institution from total collapse. She wasn't just a supporter, she was its savior. And look at this. We have the proof right here in the archives. This is an annual report from 1913. This is years after the crisis, but still years before her presidency. And there she is, listed as a dedicated member. This wasn't just some passing hobby for her. Mary Merriweather was in this for the long haul, deeply committed to the home's mission. Her incredible act of saving the home, well, that was just the beginning. Her deep, unwavering involvement would eventually take her all the way to the top, cementing a legacy that would last long after she was gone. And in 1915, it happened. Mary Merriweather took over as president. Just think about that journey for a second. From a board member who literally rescued the place from the brink of disaster, to the one person entrusted with its entire future. This was the culmination of decades of hard work and dedication. She would go on to lead the organization for almost 30 years, guiding it through massive social changes in this country. And when she passed away in 1942 at 94 years old, the board knew there was really only one way to truly honor the woman who had become the heart and soul of the home. They renamed it for her. And you can see on this slide just how profound that change was. It went from this long, descriptive, kind of anonymous title to something personal, something with a story. The Merriweather Home. Her name became its name. And her presence, her spirit, it was felt long after she was gone. Get this, a newspaper article from 1963, more than 20 years after her death, talks about her portrait hanging in the living room, a grandmotherly figure watching over the children. See, she wasn't just a name on a building, she was its enduring spirit. But this is where the story gets tricky, where the work of a historian gets really complicated. Because despite everything we've managed to uncover from the archives, huge parts of her story are still just silent. We have this powerful outline of her life, but the really fine personal details are missing. We don't have any diaries or letters. We don't have her own words explaining why she did what she did. We can only imagine the daily challenges she must have faced as a Black woman leading a major charity. The historical record honors her impact, but it has almost completely lost her voice. And that leaves us with this one big lingering question. Mary Merriweather was an extraordinary leader who gave her entire life to her community, and yet her story had to be painstakingly pieced back together from old records and newspaper clippings. It just makes you wonder, how many other hidden figures are out there, their incredible legacies just waiting in some dusty archive to be brought back into the light?